Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Brendan Mills, co-founder of Escape Plan Board Games and a TERPECA Escape Room designer. His latest campaign for the second edition of Hit the Silk is currently on Kickstarter. Brendan, welcome to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
Thanks for this warm welcome. I'm not sure I can match the energy, but that was great. Yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks.
Oh, Brendan, it's awesome. So you're joining us from the UK, so we're on different time zones. We've never met. This is the first time that you and I have chatted, kind of coming in hot here. So, Brendan, maybe you could just start from kind of when did you get into this industry? Like, how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, not long. So I've been an escape room designer for maybe just over a decade, and
That's
we had to
crazy.
shut down things during the pandemic,
Mm,
and I was kind of twiddling my thumbs a bit and still had kind of game ideas in my head. And so we created Stop the Train, which had been kind of kicking around in my mind as an idea for a while. Um, and that was interesting because it was sort of supposed to be a bit of a hobby thing,
mm.
but it kind of progressed into sort of slightly more revenue focused because a bit of my business was shut down. So we launched a Kickstarter, was successful, and yeah, that started the journey. Followed up very quickly with another game, and then kind of took a movement away from board games to kind of resurrect the escape room business.
Yeah.
Um, that's how it started.
So, like, you're the first escape room designer I've had on this podcast. So, I'm very, very curious about this. So, like, you're talking about like physical escape rooms, like when people go to their local escape pub or whatever, and they do like so you create those.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's
Oh, that's
we
so
do the kind
cool.
of cooperative stuff. It's really really different to board game design.
Yeah.
The main difference is that once you've launched an escape room, you can still tweak it. You can still mess with it.
Mm,
It's an organic thing.
yeah.
Whereas with a board game, you've got to program it so more carefully. You've got to make sure everything is right when, as you know, you're a publisher yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
How did you get
when it's
into
got
this? Like, how did you get into escape room design? This is so like random. Like,
Yeah, well, I mean, so in my household, my wife's the entrepreneur, and she's been at my heels trying to get me to start a business together for since we've been together. And I went out one evening to like an escape room in Shoreditch in London, and I came back and said, I think we could do that. That's, and I've never been like particularly positive about like in a very kind of evangelistic way about doing something.
yeah.
And she said, what are we going to do? What's the thing? And I was like, well, we're locking people in a room. And she's like, we're what? So, yeah, it was really playing a competitor one and thinking we could do that with a different spin on the kind of the theme and brand it a bit differently. So back then we had a bit more of a niche. We had a 1940s bias to our brand.
Yeah.
So we put people back in history and particularly World War II history and in Britain.
Did you
And
have
yeah,
your own location or were you designing for other people?
oh no, we have our own venue. I have designed pop-up projects for other
Yeah.
clients, but in terms of the long-standing physical rooms, we still operate those.
So like again, this just boggles my mind because I am a an escape room nerd. Pre-pandemic, myself and my brother, it was almost like an addiction. Like we would go probably once a week to an escape room somewhere, and the more thematic, the better, right? And
Yeah.
and we absolutely loved it. And for us, it's not necessarily about the puzzle because we had done some which had gotten so complicated in terms of the puzzle that they're trying to get you to solve and became very mathy, but it wasn't fun because the theme, they focus more on the math and kind of the puzzle versus the theme. The ones that focus on the theme, and there's a couple of really good ones here in Canada which are very thematic and they pump a lot of money into kind of the production value of it. Those are the ones where it literally, you're not just escaping a room, but you're escaping kind of reality. You're escaping into this kind of this world for the period of an hour that you're trying to get out of it. What's your approach when you come up with these things? Like when you're designing the escape room, so you're basing it on kind of this distant past, I guess I would say, right? Kind of maybe wartime, I guess, in terms of your thematic. Um, But then putting together like the puzzles and stuff, like, do you build it from like kind of the end to the beginning,
Mm.
or like what's that process of putting that together?
Yeah, so when I started my process, I say process. Why have I said process? I'm hearing the American words from you. My process was we start with the questions, where are we? And once we've got that, we're then like, why are we here? So we're creating the kind of the person, the scenario first. And then once we've got that, it's like, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? And we get a high level kind of idea of what the narrative is. The narrative can't be deep because people haven't got a lot of time in here. They've got to go absorb the world rather than read about or engage in a lot of content telling them what the world is like. So they had to kind of feel a lot of that. Then we ask the question, what exists in this place here? What belongs in this world? How can we weave the puzzles in line through the things that naturally exist in that environment?
Hmm.
So if you're in an Egyptian temple somewhere, you don't want to be finding something that doesn't belong in that world because it's
Yeah.
going to break the feeling of being in the temple. Um, I just said temple, I meant pyramid. I don't know. Do they do temples in Egypt? Maybe they do.
Yeah, they have temples there. They have temples and
Yeah,
pyramids. They
of
have both
course.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, So yeah, we always sort of taken that approach as like what exists in this environment. As I've matured as an escape room designer, I've paid a lot more attention to what are people feeling here. People want to feel either completely immersed, like that's your bias as a player. You don't want to
Yeah.
feel like you're transported somewhere different. Other people want to feel smart. So they want to
Mm.
have like a lot of dopamine hits, a lot of like, here's a puzzle. I know how to connect it to that thing. I've solved it. I can move on. And the sense of progression is big for some people. And
Mm.
if you're stuck there not progressing, that can be a hindrance to
Yeah, it
enjoying the game.
sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's the preference is a bit like a difference between wanting to play a lightweight board game and a crunchy one.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's the escapism, right? And but progression and dopamine hit, those are two very good words because when I'm thinking back to some of these escape rooms I've done, the ones where you do have these little mini wins along the way, even if you don't finish, you still leave feeling like jacked up, right? Because you had all these little
Mm.
wins along the way. And you're right, you do feel smart when you can kind of connect the dots. Um, how do you balance that? Like, how do you figure out what the right kind of mix is where you don't want it to be too easy, but at the same time, and you've got so many different play styles coming in too, to
Yeah.
set it in a way that it's going to actually work for kind of the most amount of people.
Yeah, that chasm of intuition, how intuitive a player finds the game is broadening. We have people who've played a lot of games now and they come in and the content is perhaps a bit easy or a bit beneath them. And
Mm,
we're trying to make sure they're getting value for money out of the time they spend there. So games are beginning to, I guess, adapt to that by having scalable difficulty within them.
mm,
Um, yeah, we want to make sure overall it's kind of fun. People they want to be kind of like to feel like they're not smart,
yeah.
even if they're not. So the way a lot of escape rooms manage that is to kind of like essentially add bonus content or have games that are around collecting things rather than completing a binary goal. So that's
Mm,
particularly popular with enthusiasts. So like you're going to rob a bank, it's not did you rob the bank, it's how much did you rob from the bank. So that's kind of like a it's a gameplay feature that's helping with that, I guess, scale or that breadth of, expanse between players who are completely new to it and players who have been doing a lot and want to get the most from it. Um, yeah, how do we deal with that? We deal with that differently by each game. You can't take a broad approach to this. You've got to say what's right for this game.
yeah. How many puzzles do you have running at a time? Like how many rooms?
Our venue's got four experiences operating.
And how often do you switch those out? Like, and when do you know it's time to kind of refresh?
Yeah, we've got the benefit of being in London, so there's always a new tourist coming through. And so the opportunity of people visiting for the first time is still huge.
Yeah.
Um, I think if we were in a more provincial town, we'd need to kind of switch them out more regularly. As it turns out, we've still got our game that we made 10 years ago. We've obviously given it a refresh and brought it up to speed, but it's still popular, still enjoyed. That's quite an atmospheric game. Uh, we make a game every kind of a couple of years at Escape Plan.
Yeah. And then and so you said you'll make them for other people as well. So you create concepts that then you kind of outsource to others trying to get into the industry, or
No, not so much. More kind of corporate clients.
mm,
So we work with British Airways, we've worked with Kettle Chips, different kind of brands that have wanted to do things internally for training or externally for kind of marketing products. So they've always been kind of like little, smaller ventures that have been running for like a week or a month.
or you said like a pop up. So you would like bring it to their location for like a corporate event or something like that.
No, more. Well, so the British Airways one I can't talk too much about, but
That's okay.
it's essentially it's a training exercise. So
Got it.
we developed a product they can use. They would typically rent a location or have one of their offices, and then we supply them with it, and they'll get to the point they can run it themselves. The kettle chips one was a bit different. That was a sort of a PR kind of activity for a new flavor of crisps that were coming out. Um, and that ran for sort of maybe a week or 10 days in a basement quite near our venue.
Mm.
That was a lot of fun.
I gotta imagine like to draw the parallel to like board game design. Um, if you're designing a game where you're saying, we want this game to kind of finish somewhere in around an hour, right? So, for instance, you're picking a play time that's kind of like
Mm.
very loose, right? But something like an escape room is not kind of like in and around an hour. Like you need to make sure a certain percentage of people can actually finish it within an hour or whatever your timeline is. How do you like? Do you design it and then start peeling things away to then getting that back to that kind of time where okay now it's achievable within a set
Yeah.
amount of time or
Yeah, definitely. It's easier to start with something complex and simplify it than it
yeah.
is to start with something that isn't quite got enough content and trying to feed more into later because the extra stuff you put in won't necessarily belong to the vision. Whereas I feel like that's different with board games. I feel like as you begin to create a board game, one idea sparks another idea
Oh
more
yeah,
freely.
totally.
I mean, you do get that in the escape room design phase at the beginning, but
Hmm.
once you've launched, things that you add in later can feel like they're not quite as tested, or they can sometimes stick out a little bit and take a while. You'll hear a lot of escape room designers talk about a game bedding in, and this is the period between like launching and watching enough people to make sure the game is flowing smoothly. I guess the equivalent in board games is making sure you don't have downtime for players, like
Yeah.
working out what it is that players are having to consult rule books too much, or just a little bit of signposting here and there to say, instead of having to flick through the rule book, we'll give a little player aid here, and that'll just speed them up through that process.
Hmm. Yeah, and also being able to observe too, right? So escape rooms, there's constantly cameras, so you're kind of making sure that the
Yeah.
people are flowing through, and you can adapt. Kind of like okay, on the next one, we seem to see this one thing keeps people keep getting hung up on this one thing. Maybe we can adjust it a little bit to make this flow a little bit better. Um, this is so fascinating to me. And then I guess board games was a natural parallel to the escape room industry for you, or was it just something that, hey, we love kind of creating things that kind of almost like a
Hmm.
machine kind of fit together for entertainment, or like what brought you then to that board game side? Like what was that kind of that transition?
Yeah, I don't think it was a deliberate transition. I feel like how my creative process works is that I have ideas
Mm,
and then I try to find the format that fits the idea. So originally, Hit the Silk started as an idea for an escape room, and there was something a bit jarring about it for me. And I think it's because it's semi-cooperative,
mm,
whereas escape rooms are fully co-op, pretty much.
yeah.
And I think they have to be fully co-op because you're 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 paying a higher ticket price for it. Um, you're invested as a group in doing well, and then to suddenly throw in like a traitor mechanic or some sort of working against each other kind of changes the vibe of a room
Yeah.
where you've invested more.
Yeah.
In a board game, it's kind of expected. It's at the table. When you engage in that game, oh, this is a little bit, competitive or a little bit against each other in places. We're prepared to leave that on the table. It felt a lot easier to bring a semi-cooperative experience into a board game than it did to an escape room. Um, I think also with creativity, sometimes you have an idea which is very story driven, and I've got a game that has been on development bench for about a year, and I maybe even no, sorry, about 3 years. And actually, more recently, I thought maybe this is just a book, maybe it isn't a board game, and I'm quite happy to switch up like the medium in which the story is delivered. And I think that's how Hit the Silken was born, really.
That's interesting. It's like this whole concept of taking an idea and saying, okay, we'll come up with the medium that fits the idea as we flush the idea out, and that may or may not be a board game. That's fascinating,
Mm.
right? So I could maybe put this into RPG, or maybe I'll put this into just straight up like a novelization, or maybe a graphic novel, or maybe it turns out to be an escape room. It's a pretty interesting approach. And now, how many games have you created as a company? So you've launched, was it three that I read somewhere?
As in board games,
Yeah, board
or
games. Yeah.
yeah, so just the two. We
So
got
just
Stop the Train, and that was 2020, and Hit the Silk in 21, and then we had a break going back to the escape room world. And the reason I've come back to Hit the Silk really is honestly is I get emails regularly saying, when are you going to reprint this?
yeah, interesting.
And I wasn't really sure what kind of demand there was. I knew people wanted it, but I didn't know if this was like a dozen noisy people or like, it's a lot of people.
Hmm.
Um, and there was a YouTuber um, on Blamco called Adam,
Hmm.
and he decided to have this kind of a charity auction where he was blindfolded and had to feel his board game, and if he couldn't identify it, it went off for sale. And he failed to identify Hit the Silk, and so it
Hmm.
went up for sale, and he sold it for charity on eBay for a few £100s, which is obviously a great deal more than the
Yeah.
selling price of the game. And it just made me realize that, oh, actually, this is something people still want to see on tables. And so I loaned my copy to Adam, and yeah, we thought let's bring it back to the market, and that was probably what, August last year, maybe.
I mean, it's fast. Like when I think, because being a designer and a publisher myself, there's always that kind of thought of, once it's done, is it done, or do you come back and do another edition at some point? And I mean, clearly, I think I read somewhere that you did, like, was it like 20,000 pounds or
No, it
something?
was. Oh, sorry. The first edition was. I think we took 20K.
Yeah, and now you're at,
And
like,
maybe
if I
this.
put it in Canadian dollars,
Yeah,
you're at like 190,000 right now, which is insane, right? You've got 2,975 backers, still 8 days to go, so that's going to hockey stick up. So, I mean, this is a very beefy result, I would say. Currently in this environment too, right? In the current Kickstarter environment, like, this is a smash hit, I would say. So clearly, the decision to do a second edition was the right decision. Was there changes you made between the different editions?
yeah. There are tweaks. They're still being finalised now for the campaign. I've just realised, sorry, that my lighting situation has dropped dramatically since we
No,
started
I
the
can see you.
call.
You're good, man. You're good.
I'm trying
So
to keep my light. My
it's all
yeah.
good. So
Sorry, continue.
so what did you change? Like, what did you like? What changed between the first version and this one?
So the main thing that we wanted to change was we wanted to listen to the feedback that was happening. The complaints that people had about things in the game that they wanted to change.
Mm-hmm.
One of them was sometimes the games are ending a little bit early,
Mm.
and they wanted, which is a good thing really, because it means they wanted to play longer. So we have vote points in the game, at which point we haven't really talked about the synopsis of this game, but maybe it's a good time to say it
Let's
now.
get into it. Yeah. How do you play this game?
Yeah, yeah. So this is a story about a gang of criminals who have heisted a plane, and they've done that because they owe a casino boss a debt. Now, whilst they're midair, the pilot's got wind of their heist. He's jumped out of the plane with his own parachute and a spare, and on his way out, he's shot 3 rounds into the engine. So the
Mm-hmm.
plane is losing altitude fast, and let's say there's four of you on board, and there's only three parachutes left. You've got to get yourself a parachute, but you've also got to assemble enough cash as a team to pay off the casino boss. So that's where it brings in the semi-cooperative nature of the game. It's kind of there's not enough resources for you to all complete your mission.
Is there enough parachutes for everybody or no?
No, there's three out of four. So one person's not jumping out of this plane and like living. So it's kind of a B movie plot, but it allows the purpose of the game um, is is for people to treat it like a playground. It's a place to have fun. It's very light on role play, but it does immerse you in the scenario, even if it doesn't immerse you in the feeling of all of the world there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of times people do things and hit the silk because they can, not because they should. So there's a huge sense of play around the game. Um, and we were talking a moment ago about what would I change,
Hmm.
and sometimes the resolution of the conflict happened a little bit too early, just because of unfortunate distribution of cards. So there's a point in the game where you vote, and if there's a majority decision to hit the silk, then to hit the silk is a phrase which means jump out of the plane with a parachute. So like an old Royal Air Force term in the UK. Uh, if that decision is unanimous, then you jump, which you wouldn't be because one person hasn't got a parachute. But if it's a majority vote, you'd still jump.
Mm.
So if three of you say we're ready to jump, the fourth person's screwed over. So it's a kind of a game of social deduction, but also negotiation and betrayal. There's lots of elements to it. But the main thing we've changed really here is making sure that the vote doesn't happen too early. So we're delaying the vote to later in the progression of the timeline. So the game has like the game clock, if you like, is the altimeter. Every time players take actions, the plane goes 1,000 feet lower.
Yeah, it's showing this on screen as you're talking. It's cool. I like the ultimate. So once it gets to a certain point, then you're forced to kind of jump out of the plane, I guess, right, and vote.
When it gets to 1,000 feet, it's a mandatory bailout.
And then how do you determine who has a shoot and who doesn't? Like, is it like a hidden thing where you may have the card, you may not, or is it a
So everyone's got an inventory of 4 cards. It's a card-based game, and you have a finite number of actions that you're able to do based on your cards. So some of your cards are assets, things that help you. So I might have in my hand a parachute, I might have some of the money, but I might also have these action cards like I can steal, I can attack other players in different ways, or I can defend myself in different ways. Um, so on your turn, you can do 3 things. You can either draw new cards on the deck, hoping to get new fortunes. You can negotiate and trade with other players. They happen face down. So there's a lot of opportunity for betrayal in those moments.
Mhm.
And the third thing that you can do is just play any cards that you want to from your hand. So you can kick another player, you can poison him, you
Is
can
it like a
spy on what he's
brawl at
looking
the
at. And
end, like when people are kind of fighting for that shoot?
there's definitely a bit of tussling. It's not quite a brawl.
Hmm.
Um, it's normally there's 1 or 2 people who are desperate and trying to kind of. One of my favorite mechanics in the game is that if you feel like people are going to jump without you, you get the handcuffs on and you handcuff yourself to that person. But they're not going anywhere until you've both got a parachute. So there's a bit of humor in the game as well.
That's awesome. So you could force somebody to say, okay, well, I don't want to jump because I'm handcuffed to James here, and if he doesn't have a
Exactly that.
shoot, then we got to go together.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
fantastic. How did you come up with this idea? Like, where did the idea for this come from?
This one was just sheer inspiration. I don't, wasn't a great. There was thinking about the theme for a long time in terms of an escape room, and then I forgot about it. And then just one night during the pandemic, I went to bed and I started thinking about what if there's this game with the parachutes, and like I'd forgotten about the escape room idea. And originally I just called it Jump, and I wrote down the names of 12 cards. The whole thing was written in 20 minutes. It took me 20 minutes to write the silk,
Mm.
and then about a year to refine it. And I took it to Kerry, my wife, and she said, "Yeah, this is Hit the Silk. This is the thing you wanted to make with the escape room, but it's now a card game." Oh yeah, it is. And then it dawned on me that it's been kind of like there in the back of my mind for a long time.
Hmm.
And because I've been playing more card games and board games during the pandemic, I think it re-emerged in the place it should have been.
Yeah. And then in terms of like is this something? Because I mean, there's technically two games, right? So one, and then the other one you've done two editions of. Do you see yourself as a kind of a long-term publisher, or is this just more creative ideas you had to get off kind of off your chest, or kind of how do you visualize this going
Yeah.
forward?
Well, before the Kickstarter launched, I think the question was asked, is this for love or for money? And is it a passion project
It's
or are we
never
trying to
for
make it
money. What are
work?
you talking about? It's always for love. There's
Yeah.
no money in this industry.
Yeah, but like it's in terms of like, am I able to like get a bit of pocket money out of it, I guess? Is it something that I can devote enough
Yeah.
time to that, sort of become a publisher and enjoy what I do? And trying to balance that with the escape room world. And I figured that the objective for this particular campaign was just to get funded and just to get it onto tables again, just because it's a good game.
Mm.
However, the amount of success that we've had with it, I'm feeling like there are opportunities now to then continue creating more games. So I've got another game, and yeah, I already kind of I wrote it 2 days ago, and I've got a 15-page kind of like Canva document with a bunch of kind of writings and diagrams. And so, yeah, I feel like I've got more games in me, is the answer to that question.
And what's the development cycle? So this other game that you've got this kind of schedule, like what's the development cycle for you? Like how long does it take you to take from like not ideation, but more like a finished concept to getting it to like campaign and launching? Like what's that distance look like for you guys?
Um, yeah, I like it's very early stages for this. So I think the
Yeah.
next thing that happens is prototyping. So I've gone through a lot of like the concepts over and over in my mind, have done for the last week. We've now got like a structure of it, and now it's time to see if it works,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot of playtesting. Um, and if we see from the playtesting, hey, this is actually something that people are enjoying, uh, then we start taking it to more people, and yeah, think about investing in, kind of the artwork and marketing, start having conversations with the manufacturer.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then I guess after that, it's we'll have a confidence in moving it forward or not. I feel good about this one actually. I feel like this one's going to go forward.
Yeah. And what did you do? Is there any learning that you had between kind of first edition, second edition of Silk? I mean, this is a massive difference, right? Like often I'll see like second editions will, do kind of maybe what the first one did, or maybe they go and do a little bit better. But I mean, you're at a significant factor over what you did on the first campaign. What did you do differently this
Yeah.
time?
Um, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I've been shrouded in darkness by the
It's
failure of a light
okay.
in front of me. So,
We're
so
talking to
you
a
feel a bit
mystery
mysterious.
individual now. I got your silhouette, but it's all good. Thank God most of our
Yeah,
audience is audio
yeah.
based. So what did you do differently? Like what was the main thing?
Yeah, the main thing was a lot of demand had built up. I
Mm,
think that was a huge factor in it. And we have a marketing partner in No Rolls Barred, the YouTube channel.
hmm.
They've got extraordinary reach.
Yeah.
So I think those two things were huge factors. It was like there was a latent audience of people wanting to do it, and there's also um, yeah, I guess endorsement from a YouTube channel that is so big and so popular is great.
Yeah.
I'm amused by this lack of light situation. I don't know why I can't put a light on in front of me.
Are you guys
Continue anyway.
doing any marketing at all around it, or has this been almost entirely organic?
I mean, there is some marketing.
Sure.
Obviously, No Rolls Barred have got social media channels and YouTube content that's going out
Yeah.
quite frequently. We're doing a little bit ourselves, but yeah, it's been hard to know how much to throw at the marketing because it wasn't anticipated that it would be this big.
Yeah.
So, and we're obviously having a lot of offers now from like advertising partners um, to go ahead and partner with those
Yeah.
people to
Were
kind of to get a wider reach. And it's kind of a little bit late in the campaign now to start thinking about new ideas.
were you able to track like how many people from the first campaign came and then repledged on the second print? Like, did you get people saying coming back for like another copy, maybe for the just wanted a refresh copy or maybe a copy for a friend, or were you guys able to track those numbers at all?
Uh, I haven't actually looked at the numbers
Mm.
for that. We have definitely a listening. I've kind of dissuaded people from buying the edition, second edition again, unless they really want to, because I don't think there's a significant amount of difference
Mm.
that warrants the purchase of a whole new game for it. Obviously, if you're a collector and you want to, that's great. We'd love you to buy it, but I don't feel that there's the changes are evolutionary rather than revolutionary. So we're not doing huge, great new changes.
Yeah. As you know, though, when people love something, they want it all, right? There's completionists out there that, like, if there's a campaign, they want to have all the little elements that are part of that campaign. Or if there's like a series of games, even if they're not going to play every game in that series, they want the entire series. Imagine this case like this too, where if you have people that are very passionate about Get the Silk, right? And they've loved it, and the past several years it's been their favorite game, right? And that somebody once told me that they said,
Mm,
keep in mind that your game is always going to be someone's favorite game,
yeah, that's
right?
true.
And so there's people that this is their favorite game, and just I could see very easily people saying, gosh, maybe there's new content, maybe it's
Yeah,
superficial, but I still want to have that because I love this game so much. I want to get that extra, I want to get the next copy. I imagine you're probably going to see when you guys do your post game and see the numbers around this, I gotta imagine there's probably at least 5% of the people of that first campaign that have probably come back for this one as well.
Yeah, we know there's a bunch of people who are coming back who are buying just an expansion pack that goes with it.
Yeah,
And so I haven't got the numbers. What I do know about numbers is that about a quarter of our following of our backers are new to Kickstarter.
that's interesting.
Um, so we are reaching people who don't normally come to this platform, which is obviously good for Kickstarter, but
It's rare
yeah,
too, because that
that's
doesn't happen often, right? Like usually you're working within the ecosystem of Kickstarter, not necessarily being able to bring people in. I often say, like in advertising games, the fundamental mistake a lot of times people make is they try to bring people in from outside of the platform, right? So I'll take an example. I had a game called Nutty Squirrels of the Oakwood Forest, and I spent a lot of marketing dollars trying to go and get squirrel enthusiasts to come in and back the game. And it was way more expensive to do that than try to convince someone who's already, familiar with
yeah,
Kickstarter, using Kickstarter, to get them interested in a squirrel game. Same with Queen of Scots. We have a game that's based on, Mary Queen of Scots and that time in history. And I tried to go after all Tudor enthusiasts and anybody that there's social media channels that are focused on following Mary Queen of Scots and everything about her entire life. And I chased all of those, and the conversion was so low. All of my backers came from within the platform. So good for you guys, I guess. What I'm saying is, are some of those coming through
yeah.
maybe your escape room? Like, are you guys advertising at your location there and maybe pulling people in from there?
We have maybe some, but I think our escape room following know what we do. That we do a bit of board game on the
Yeah.
side as well. No, I think it's probably people who are more invested in kind of watching the board game channels on YouTube,
Yeah,
but have really just kind of gone straight to buying rather than into backing.
that's fair.
So yeah, it might be some of that. I guess I might dig into that later on.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like information that's valuable right now, but at some point it probably will be.
I always love the data points, right? Like there's always something in there that you can pull out and use that going forward. Brendan, I want to wish you all the best on this campaign. I mean, it looks like a lot of fun. I can just imagine people around the table, trying to fight over the parachutes to get off that plane with a fistful of cash, and clearly this has been reflective in your success so far. I mean, this campaign is doing incredibly well, and it's where it's going to finish is probably going to put you in probably one of the top games this month on Kickstarter for sure. So congrats on that, and all the best to you, my
Thanks.
friend.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me on your podcast, James. It's been great to meet with you.
No worries, my friend. You take care. Cheers.
You too.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.